Howdy friends and neighbors, old Doc here, and cornbread. I wanted to do a little video on an old F10 Farmhand loader and the control valve. I don't know how much you can see. This piece here went across the bottom, and all this was on Uncle Joe, the 37A there, right? So this piece here, it went across the bottom on the back, and you can see there's a rod welded on there, and that went in here. And there's one there, a pipe, big long pipe. You go all the way down and across here. Now, the cylinders, I don't remember what happened to them. I think I scrapped them because the seals were out, and the rods were just all rusty and everything, so I think we scrapped them years ago. And then this angle here with the end on it goes down, I don't know if you can see it, down through the grown into the tree there, went through the other end of this. Okay, I don't have much of this loader left, but and this piece here, a big misconception is people think these F10 loaders, Farmhand loaders, were trip buckets. They weren't. If they were trip buckets, somebody didn't have hydraulics or whatever and made them in trip buckets. There was a hydraulic cylinder that went on this piece on the bottom, and remember this piece was horizontal. There was a hydraulic cylinder on the, if you're facing the back of the tractor on the left hand side, that was kind of hidden behind the hydraulic reservoir tank, which held like 10 gallons. They were long cylinders, and these loaders would lift like 20 feet in the air. So it took a lot of hydraulic fluid to raise them that far. But anyway, behind the reservoir tank that held the hydraulic fluid, there was another cylinder about 4 feet long, and it had double pulleys at the top. And the cables, and this is where everybody thinks that these were trip buckets. The double pulleys, the cables that went through the double pulleys on that vertical hydraulic cylinder was deadheaded, bolted to the side arms. And then the cables went through those double pulleys and up above the top piece, which is this one right here. It went across the top piece, and there were pulleys on it, and I'll show you those pulleys in just a minute. Okay, here's the pulleys that were bolted on the top, and the cables ran through here. Okay, so the big piece ran across the bottom on the back, and then you had the pipes coming up the side, and then that other angle across the top and pipe down the side. Your reservoir tank went here, and it is that tank right there with the hose hooked to it. That's the reservoir tank. Behind that, there was a hydraulic cylinder that was vertical, had the 2 pulleys on it, and the cables went up to that upper angle that I showed you back there in the scrap pile, and there was a pulley on top up here and a pulley on top up here, and that was those 2 pulleys right there. And from that pulley, the cables came down the loader arms and down to the bucket, and there was a spring on the bucket, and the cables hooked to the bucket. Those F10s had like a 10-foot, or not 10 foot, like a 7-foot wide bucket on them. Okay, now let's get to the valve that ran these hydraulics. You had pressure up and gravity down on the loader arms, and on the bucket it was pressure up and gravity down also. So here's the, I'll call it a spool valve. I believe these had a special name of their own, and I can't find it. I can't find anybody that remembers. Okay, but here's the spool valves that went on them. So I may have this part backward. If you, I wish I'd have brought my phone holder. Your pump, your pressure side came in here, and then this went back to your tank. So this end here went to your pump, or came from your pump, put pressure into your valve system, and then this released back into your tank. Now on up here, there were sometimes, I don't know if always, there was sometimes another block system that was on here, and it had 2 smaller handles on it, and that was for your fine controls. Okay, now what this did is, I don't know if I can do this with one hand. I'm going to try. You pull this lever, there we go, pull it down like that, and that would raise your loader up, your loader arms up. I know this thing's going to roll completely over. I'm going to try to get it in here without my, okay, and then back up is your neutral position, and then forward with the lever. So I got it forward now. That is your gravity down. Okay, then we'll get her back up here into the neutral position, back in the center. All right, now if you wanted to dump your bucket, remember your bucket was operated on those cable arms. They weren't trip. They ran on a hydraulic cylinder. The cables were ran to pulleys on top of a hydraulic cylinder. If you wanted your bucket to go down, you push this lever in, and that would let gravity of the weight of your bucket and material in your bucket to let it go down. If you wanted your bucket to go up, I accidentally pushed a button and cut you off. If you wanted your bucket to come up, which was hydraulic, you pull this lever back, see? And then that would raise your bucket via the cables. All right, and then back, there's the neutral position. So that is how these F10 valves worked. Now, like I said, there used to be, or there sometimes was, another control block up here with 2 small levers, And those were your fine-tune levers. If you just wanted your bucket to go down or up slightly, or your arms to go down or up slightly, you used those levers. There is a number on here I didn't see before when I was trying to get information on this, and I found nothing on these. I mean, there's some videos out there on F10 loaders. Very few of them show these valves. Everybody's like, oh, the loader, and they're more focused on the tractor and shit. So here's a number. It's B-122, and it looks like an O stamp there, possibly a U. That almost looks like a N with a built-in T. You can make that out. And I don't see anything on this side. Now these were mounted on a plate. There's the two mounting holes down below. They were mounted on a plate on the left-hand side of your, where are we here? On your left-hand side of your seat, kind of where my valve block is. That they bolted through a plate, so this was on the left-hand side. So I just wanted to, I could not find a video on these at all on YouTube. So hopefully this helps somebody else out, explains what it does. I'm kind of wondering if I plumb it in to use on these forks, it's just, I mean, it's going to be a lot more work than what it's going to be worth. But it is still a good valve system, and I'm going to continue to hang on to it. And you, I don't know, maybe you can see down in there, it's clean down in there. And I'm going to plug it and keep it clean. So you can see all the way through there. So it's in the neutral position, so your hydraulic oil is pumped straight on through and right back to your tank. So there you go. With the help of Brett and I believe it was Ed Goslin. Brett at Ag Wild, and I believe it was Ed Goslin. If you remember my last video, how fast these forks dropped, because when there's weight on there, that rod over here that controls my hydraulics on my 3-point, it just, I mean, when you got some heavy pressure on this, it is a bear. There's no fine tuning that rod down to get it to release. It just, finally, it snaps forward, and I mean, she drops fast. If you guys seen the video, my last video. So what I'm going to do is maybe this coming weekend, I got a restrictor. I'm going to put, it's got a little 1/32 hole in it. Now it's probably going to be slower than Frozen Frida on the way up, but I guess that's fine. And as long as I don't get that drop, you know, if I got something on a pallet, say an appliance or whatever, I don't want it to drop. Dropping, it's got to be just harder than heck on those cylinders for one thing. And this one already leaks by on the inside. That's where all the hydraulic mess is from. It leaks by on the inside. So, you know, I don't want to spend $100 and some bucks for each new cylinder and it's just, you know, I don't want it to drop. By the way, this right here came off of the vertical cylinder, off the bottom of that vertical cylinder that pulled on the cables for the bucket on that Farmhand F10 loader. That is off the bottom of that hydraulic cylinder, that vertical cylinder. So with that, friends and neighbors, I hope that cleared up some misconceptions. And like I said, I could not find any videos that actually showed a decent view of this, let alone how it works. I kind of do wish that I had the block that goes on top here for the fine tuning, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this other than just hang on to it for now. I have this. I have the reservoir tank. I want to show you what pumped the oil on this. Believe this. This was all on these old, everything. Those F10 loaders are on everything. I've seen them on everything from 4020 John Deere's. And this was the oldest tractor I've ever seen one on. Uncle Joe here, this 1937A. That whole big, believe it or not, system was on this little tractor. Yeah. And what ran the pump, and those of you that don't know or are new to the channel, this tractor's been in our family since 1944. The family bought it for my great Uncle Joe when he got out of World War II. Okay. Now, what ran the hydraulic pump for that big Farmhand loader was the pulleys on this flywheel. That pulley system. And I've had people offer me a lot of money for that pulley. But what Uncle Joe did, he had brackets out here on the frame, and there was a hydraulic pump that stuck out here with a double pulley, and I still have the pump. And then two V-belts ran off of that to the hydraulic pump. I couldn't imagine hand cranking this and turning that hydraulic pump. But that is what ran the hydraulics on that F10 loader. Yep. So someday I want to do something with this, with Uncle Joe here. I got a block in the head for it, but I believe the original block and head got filled with water because the garage roof that Uncle Joe had this tractor in, it went to the wayside and it filled this thing plumb up with water, and it busted the block and the head. I got a different head, and I believe the head is good, but I don't think the block is any good. The cylinder walls are pretty rusty, and I don't think it can be bored enough to be saved. But I may do something else as far as engine with that. So anyway, this has got to be a long video, and I didn't intend it to be. That Farmhand loader, it would have been a better deal, something like on this M Farmall, but this dual loader, it's a much faster and better setup. It only raises like 3 feet high, or 3 feet high, 13 feet, I believe, to the bottom edge of the bucket, to where the old Farmhand loaders went like 20 feet in the air. Well, I'm sorry, taters. Poor old cornbread. He's always at your feet helping, and I accidentally kicked him. So with that, friends and neighbors, I'm going to cut this off. Be kind to yourself, a friend, a stranger, or a loved one. Please and thank you. Goes a long ways, and so does holding the door for somebody. You know, and be courteous on the roads. Happy trails.